You're listening to the Rise Above podcast, the only podcast on the planet with a mission to help you live a free and uncommon life. Here's your host, Greg Smith.
Yes. Welcome. I'm Greg Smith. I'm your host, and this is episode number 3 of the Rise Above podcast. Thank you so much for being here today. And I want to let you know that I believe if you desire uncommon freedom in business and in life, that it starts with creating a champion's mindset from within. And today is about being a champion. Last week, I prefaced that this week we'd be talking about how gold medals are for winners. And it's kind of bold, it's kind of out there, and I may lose some listeners, but you know what? That's okay, because the champions are going to stick around and the champions are going to listen to the message. And here's what the message really is today. You know, life can be bold. Life can be in your face. And at the end of the day, there is a clear winner and a loser in life, in your life. And so I want you to ask yourself, are you currently winning or losing the battle? And many years ago for me, I was losing the battle. There's been times in my life where I felt like I just wasn't going anywhere. I just felt like I wasn't progressing. I wasn't getting better. I wasn't achieving the goals that I wanted to achieve in my life. And I really didn't know how to do that. And it was about 11 years back, I was introduced to somebody who ultimately became my mentor. One of my greatest friends now became my mentor in life. And I decided to join this winning team of entrepreneurs that really raised me up. And over 11 years, it's been a phenomenal journey because I've been able to do the same thing and help other people who feel like they're stuck or they're not going anywhere. And I've been able to invite them to be a part of my team. And, you know, I think it really started for me as a high school athlete. When I was a freshman in high school, I was quite the rambunctious guy. At one point, I had choked out, I kid you not, I had choked out my phys ed teacher, and I thought it was funny. Back then, WWE and WWF, we watched that stuff all the time, and so I rear naked choked the guy. And looking back, now that I do jujitsu, it wasn't smart. And literally, the guy turned purple, and he tried to stuff me into a locker. But the long story short is, we became great friends after that, after he smashed me on the wrestling mat. And what happened was, he recruited me to be a part of the wrestling team. And it was one of the best things that ever could have happened in my life, because many of my friends who didn't go down that route have either ended up in jail or just down other paths. And I really look back to me being a part of this wrestling team being what has attributed to my success. And it's because I learned that I loved being an individual. We're all individuals in life. And so I love the fact that in wrestling, I could be my own self. I could be an individual. And at the end of the day, they were basically, you know, with individual, or I should say, individual sports, but they have a team atmosphere, right? Because in wrestling or track, you know, I also ran track, and that was one of my favorite sports too, because if you're the fastest, you get a run, and you get it. And you know, same thing with wrestling. If you're the best, you get a wrestle. We'd have wrestle offs, and the best guy wins. The best guy gets to compete on the weekends. And same thing with the track team. Well, track, everybody gets to run, but the fastest guy wins. And so I like that because I was pretty quick. But you know, with individual team sports, you basically have 3 outcomes, right? You can win as a team, and you can lose as an individual, or you can lose as a team and also lose as an individual. That's not a good day. Don't like those days. But the really good days are when you win as a team and you also win as an individual. Those are the best days. But the cool thing is when you lose as an individual and your team wins, you still feel like you're a part of something, and you still get kind of lifted up by the team atmosphere. But the thing about wrestling was this, you know, is your team, you know, I remember very vividly one of the dual matches that we had, and we were this really small Catholic school, and we had this spotlight that came down and it shined on the mat, and you couldn't really see the people in the bleachers that were watching you, but you could see your teammates along the side of the mat. And I always remember how your teammates will always cheer for you. They want you to win. They're sitting on the sidelines and they're cheering and they're telling you what to do. And, you know, like they literally can feel your pain. But at the end of the day, you're the guy that's under the spotlight. You're the guy that's in the middle of the match. You're the guy that will decide if you win or lose based upon if you give it your best effort. Now, sometimes you can give it your best effort and you can still lose, but that's okay, because that's like I tell my 5-year-old boy. We had soccer today, and it's the same thing. I don't say, I don't ask him if he wins or loses at this point. I ask him if he had fun. I ask him if he did his best, and then I ask him if he listened to the coach. And that's really what I care about at this age. But as you get older in life, you can win and lose, but the key is when you do lose is that you learn from it and you get better. And that was the greatest thing about an individual sport, and any sport for that matter, is you can lose, but you can continue to get better. And the cool thing is you can do that in life. And I think many of us find ourselves like I did, being a young man. I got finished with wrestling. I loved wrestling. Two of my major mentors in life really came through wrestling. They were my wrestling coaches, and they really whipped me into a young man. They whipped me out of that crazy wild kid who decided he wanted to choke his phys ed teacher one day, and turned me in, allowed me to get my aggression out in the right way, but really turned me into somebody that was more respectful, somebody that knew how to shake hands, etc. But what happened was, as I got in my early 20s, I found myself not surrounded by a team any longer. I found myself not challenged really much any longer. I had a little bit of challenge in my work and my job, but at the end of the day, I didn't really have a team. I didn't have people that were driving and pushing me to become better. And what I see nowadays is I see a lot of people who think they're on teams. They're wearing somebody else's name on their back every single weekend, but the fact is they're a spectator and they're just watching. And they think when that team wins that they win too. But at the end of the day, guess what? You've probably been sitting on your couch watching and spectating while somebody else has been busting their hump to actually win that gold medal.
Are you someone who wants to live life on your own terms? Do you dream of having more time to spend doing the things you love? Then download your copy of The Freedom Formula absolutely free at www.riseabovepodcast.com. What are you waiting for? Go to www.riseabovepodcast.com to get your free copy of The Freedom Formula.
And that's just it. And it's okay to feel like you're a part of it, but you have to understand that there's many, many games going on. Spectators, yes, do play a role, because we as spectators do fund, right? And we make it to where these guys can do the love of the game, right? Even though the love of the game has turned into a game of money. But the fact is we support that. And so, yeah, we are kind of a part of those victories in a way. But at the end of the day, you also have the game of life. You also have your game. And when you're 70 years old, many of the people that are around you right now, or many of the people who you may think are friends, aren't going to be there when you're on your deathbed. Hopefully it's not at 70, by the way. But as you're going through your later years, they're not going to be there supporting your children and your grandchildren. They're not going to create your legacy for you. You have to do that yourself. That's the individual in this game of life. But the cool thing is, if you choose to, you can find a winning team to be a part of. You can find a group of other people who think like you, act like you, have the same dreams as you, and they're heading in the same direction as you, and you can decide to join them. Me, I am looking for people who want uncommon freedom. I'm looking for people who continually want to grow. I'm looking for people who want to leave a legacy. That's my team. There's other people out there that have phenomenal teams that are teams of engineers, teams of, all types of things. My jiu-jitsu academy is a phenomenal team, and they're building up people, and I've watched it happen where they build up somebody and they go and they open up their own academy, and then their own academy, and they duplicate, and that's what their team is. And that's awesome. But for me as an entrepreneur, me as a leader, I'm charging forward, and I am attracting people who want uncommon freedom. I'm attracting people who don't want to work for the weekends. That's my team. And we'll challenge people on an individual basis, and we'll help them grow. And even through their losses, we can raise them up. And so whatever it is that you're looking for, if you're looking for something, I know for me, as a young man, I found myself out of school without a team, without a mentor, and frankly, I felt kind of lost. I felt like, at the ripe age of 20, because I didn't go to college, I found myself in a place where I really didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And I was really questioning, is this everything? Is this everything that's supposed to happen, right? I was, fortunately, my wife and I, we've been together since we were 16. And, we were buying a house together. We were going to get married and had a little dog and, all that stuff. But even still, I was not challenged. And I wasn't getting better. I was not becoming the best version of myself. And fortunately, I found a place to call home. And I've done that for over 11 years. And I have an amazing team of people who have produced more teams of people, which is, duplication of leadership. But here's my point to all that. Wherever you are right now, wherever you are, I want to challenge you if there's a field or a sport, that you've been looking into. I talked about one of my good friends in real estate, and he's been looking at the sport for a long time, right? But I want to challenge you to start taking the steps to move from spectator into an actual player. Because at the end of the day, the gold medals go to the people who play. The gold medals go to the people who get out there and get after it and make things happen. The gold medals go to the people who actually put themselves on the team. And you know what? That can be a scary thing. That can be a scary thing. I took an uncommon leap of faith 11 years ago to become an entrepreneur. And I'm not saying it was the smartest thing. Looking back, now that I have 3 kids and I'm an adult, I can totally see why certain people, like we talked about last week, tried to tear me down by their perspective. But I knew what I saw. But the thing is, you don't have to take a crazy leap. You can start doing something that you've always wanted to do. If that's real estate, if that's something online, if that's writing a book or a podcast like I've started, whatever it is, you can take that leap in small chunks. So the key here is that you get clear on what it is that you're looking to achieve, but most importantly, you start searching and seeking and looking for a winning team. Because here's the thing. Think back to all my guys on the wrestling team. You could come off that mat and you could lose. But at the end of the day, those guys are always there for you. Those guys are there to lift you up. And one of the scariest things of life to me is being in a situation where I get pulled down or I lose. And, I use this word losing. I really don't think there's winning and losing, frankly. And I use the gold medals are for winners to get you to listen. You can't lose unless you allow yourself to lose. Unless you allow yourself to lose, that's the only way you can lose. But if you look at a loss and you truly learn from it, and you allow yourself to look at it in a way where you can take some lessons from it and you can get better, then you don't really lose. You just learn. And so really there's winning and learning in my book. That's my philosophy, is winning and learning. So there's not necessarily winning and losing. There's winning and learning, depending on your philosophy. So maybe you can adopt that, and maybe that'll help you as you help your kids, because I know one thing is I don't ever want my kid to feel like a loser. That's for darn sure. And I don't want anybody else to, for that matter. But my kid does have to learn, as do we all, that you either keep learning, right? And if you don't win some, you never get ahead in life. And so you got to win at some point. You got to win at the relationship. You got to win in your spirituality. You got to win at finances. You have to win at some point. So you can't keep losing and learning all the time. So there really is a point where gold medals are just for winners. And they are for people who are not sitting on the sidelines. They're made for people who are on a team. So again, I encourage you to start looking for that winning team of other people that think like you and are on the same path and the same journey as you. And so until next week, where I talk about giants becoming a blood-sucking parasite and ultimately dead people, take care and God bless.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.